And again, welcome. Congratulations to everyone on this call, because that means you have been admitted to Stony Brook University if you were invited to attend this. So congratulations. We are so excited you have joined and hope that you will learn enough today to want to join us here in the fall. Again, my name is Stacy Aquero, and I am in the International Admissions Office, and I'm joined by Ms. Lindsay Johnson from the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships. When we're talking about financing your education, we really understand that many students, especially students who are outside of the US, have not heard of certain terminologies when it comes to the words financial aid and scholarships. So we really just wanted to give some basic information and terms before we get into some of the varieties of ways you can have funding. I'm going to go over this, but Lindsay, feel free to jump in if I forgot something on this. The net price calculator in the United States, every institution that offers federal aid, which we'll talk about in just a moment, is required to have a net price calculator on their website, from their financial aid website. And this actually can also be used by international students. It is a form essentially where you're plugging in certain information, including academic information and financial information, to kind of give you a sense of what it might look like in terms of final cost for you to attend the university. The one thing I will say with this is the GPA generally needs to be on a US scale. So sometimes students don't always know what that scale is. Of course, we do all of those conversions. So I'm, again, happy to help in those individual matters through email or an individual call. So please do keep that in mind. But it is a great tool, and it is on every university that you'll be applying's website. The word budget means a lot, and you can really understand what the word budget is in a variety of different ways. When we talk about budget, it's overall the budget to attend the university. The university itself, through the financial aid office, creates a budget figure in which it is going to have a total cost, which is the term below, cost of attendance, to actually attend the university. So this will include in your budget tuition, fees, room and board. Oftentimes it may include what we'll call indirect costs, which are things like flights and books and other travel expenses. So some of these words will get used a little bit interchangeably as well, and that's okay. And so, your cost of attendance is really your final cost to the university, where there will be indirect costs as well. Keep in mind, as an international student, of course, you have to have flights to come to the US. You'll also have visa processing fees through the embassy and through SEVIS, books once you arrive. And I always say just sort of daily expenses while you are here as well. Of course, if you're living on campus, your meal plan and your room and board are included in those fees, but oftentimes you'll still need personal care items, to last throughout a year. You need soap and shampoo, and perhaps, extra pens or a charger, or, random things that you need throughout the year. So oftentimes, all of this will be included in your overall budget. And what will happen is if you are offered any kind of scholarships, which we'll talk about in just a moment, no matter what, you will receive a financial aid package that will include what this overall cost is, and then any scholarships, and therefore deducted from that, what is your final cost to attend. It should be noted in here that as non-US citizens or permanent residents of the United States, you are not eligible for United States federal financial aid or New York state aid. You are eligible for scholarships, which we will talk about in just a little bit. So of course, excuse me, if you've heard any of my other presentations earlier in the process, I talk a lot about, is Stony Brook a right fit for you? And how do you know, is it a right fit for you in terms of the location of Stony Brook and the majors that we offer and the programming and clubs that we offer? But one of the things I also talk about is it a financial fit for you? And every student, in terms of financial fit and those other kinds of areas that I talked about, are different for everyone. So what your fit is and what's in priority and importance to you might be different to somebody else. So these are very individual kind of conversations to have within yourself, as well as with your family. So when we look at, is Stony Brook a financial fit for you? We'll look overall at what the tuition is in just a little bit. But Stony Brook offers a couple of opportunities for scholarships. We offer the Global Excellence Award, which is a merit-based scholarship, which has automatically been considered with your application. Most students received that with their acceptance, or if you were accepted really early, you probably didn't get that until sometime a few months ago. So if you did not receive a merit-based scholarship or the Global Excellence Award, mostly everyone received that. So I do encourage you to relook in your portal, typically with your letter of admission. It's a separate tab in the portal with your letter. Students had the opportunity to apply for the You Are Welcome Here scholarship. That is for a half tuition scholarship, and that is our largest scholarship that we offer at Stony Brook. That is a national campaign. Many universities offer that scholarship. We're bound to offer 2. In the past, we've offered about 10. This year, we were so excited. We had so many great submissions. We offered 25. So we're really excited to be able to offer that many students that opportunity and help so many students. In a little bit, Lindsay is going to talk about Scholarship Universe, where there are some additional opportunities outside of Stony Brook for some scholarships. You might have also heard of the terminology need-based scholarship and aids, often based on a student's financial need. That is typically, some universities will offer that. Stony Brook does not really offer any need-based aid. We don't use the CSS profile or the International Student Financial Aid application. So there are very little in need-based aid opportunities. But there are sometimes some loan opportunities which can be based off of need. We really encourage you to connect to see if in your own country there are government loans. And there are sometimes some private loan opportunities if you have a cosigner here in the US that we'll mention. Some other opportunities can be where you will have some funding on campus, is some on-campus jobs, opportunities after you've been here a year to be what's called an RA, a resident assistant, which will allow for some discounted housing opportunities. There's also opportunities for additional scholarships to apply to as current students, typically through your academic departments. What I typically say is for on-campus jobs, This is not necessarily to supplement your tuition, but those indirect costs I talked about, when you have to either travel back home or your typical kind of toiletry or personal care item needs, that this will supplement those kinds of expenditures throughout the year. So I'm just going to pass it on quickly to Lindsay to talk about Scholarship University.
Thank you, Stacey. I appreciate that. So we get a lot of questions sometimes of how international students can kind of apply for scholarships once they become students here. So we have here at the university something called Scholarship Universe, where it is basically a scholarship search engine to help students find scholarships from the university that they match with. So we advise all students that once you matriculate, once you get that net ID and password, to log on to this website. You would use your Stony Brook credentials, and you create like a little profile. So it starts with asking about 30 questions. You can answer up to 100. We always suggest to answer those full 100 questions because it allows them to match you better with scholarships that are out there. And what it will do is it will send you email reminders saying, hey, we found 5 scholarships that you might match with here. Click here to apply. And it really allows students to get an idea of what aid is out there, what scholarships are out there for them to apply for. But what's also neat about Scholarship Universe is that it does also search for external scholarships. And so sometimes it's hard trying to look for those external scholarships because you're not sure, is it a real scholarship? Is it not a good scholarship? But this is a search engine that has already vetted those scholarships. So they send it to students saying, hey, it may not be, it's not part of Stony Brook, but here's an external scholarship. This company is offering a scholarship for students who are left-handed, who like to go surfing, who like long walks on the beach. So they're very specific, but they do send those to students. If you, fill out that profile, they'll send you that type of information. One thing we do like to just make sure students are aware of is that if you are applying for an external scholarship outside of Stony Brook, there are a few things you want to make sure that you are aware of. You really should never pay to get a scholarship. That's not something that you should have to do. So, one of the times is if you do see that, you may want to be a little leery of it. But the good thing about Scholarship Universe is that they've done that vetting for students. I would say since you guys are admitted students at this point, you may not have you don't have the credentials to log on to Scholarship Universe, but if you go to our Stony Brook website, so stonybrook.edu/financial aid, on the homepage, we have that scholarship link. And the student scholarships that students can apply for are listed on the front page of Scholarship Universe. Just be mindful that a lot of the deadlines may have passed because they are for admitted students, so you guys have to make your decision soon. But we definitely suggest taking a look at this website to kind of, once you're here, to get an idea of additional aid that might be available to you as international students. Yeah, that's about it.
Great, thank you. So before we talked a little bit about sort of cost of attendance and budget, and I said budget sometimes will have a couple of different meetings. And one of the meetings will also be the total budget that is needed for your I-20. Your I-20, of course, is the document that is needed for you to, that you will receive from Stony Brook, that you will need in order to apply for your F1 visa at the embassy. And in order to receive that I-20 document from Stony Brook, you must, one, have already submitted your deposit to Stony Brook. We will not issue that I-20 without your deposit. And two, of course, you need to show proof of funding, minus any scholarships you have received. So of course, that includes your Stony Brook scholarship, as well as any other outside funding scholarship. And acceptable sources of funding would be things like a bank statement in your name or in somebody else's name who will be your sponsor. The bank statement must be within the past 6 months, and it must be considered liquid funds. It cannot be frozen. So the amount is $51,822, and this is more than what is actually going to be the total cost to attend Stony Brook. And that is because it does include things like travel. It sometimes will include some summer expenditures, even though that's not what, you're not required to be here over the summer. And so students often get confused because there are two different sort of budget and cost of attendance numbers. But do know that this will include other of those indirect costs that you're paying outside to Stony Brook. So even if you have yet to pay your deposit and you are waiting till May 1, I highly, highly, highly encourage students to begin this process in Access VIS. You should have received a separate email from our Visa and Immigration Services offices here at Stony Brook University with the login and password to your Access VIS portal. You want to have all of this done because they need to check to make sure that your bank statements are correct and they have all of the information. That way, once you deposit, they can send out that I-20 to you pretty immediately. It will take at least 2 weeks for them to review all of it. So if you submit your deposit on May 1 and then you haven't yet started your process for your I-20, you can expect at least a 2-week turnaround. So I really encourage all students to at least get this done. They'll be in contact with you if anything is missing, and that way it is all taken care of. If you want to start that process right away and you know you're coming to Stony Brook, get that deposit in, get those forms in. That way you can make your appointment with the embassy. As I mentioned, sometimes the costs, those indirect costs are showing on there, but really your total estimated cost of attendance is about $25,000 for tuition, plus fees of about $3,500 and about another $17,000 for room and board. I always say this is estimated. We are a state university. Our tuition is approved by our Board of Regents and then approved by the state. For each year going forward, that normally happens later in the spring. So we actually don't know what our final costs of tuition are just yet. And that will typically be announced sometime in May, but could even be later than that or even earlier. So we always base it off of what our current tuition is. Sometimes we say maybe a 5–10% increase. We have not, with COVID, we haven't actually had some of those larger increases in the past few years, but it is always unknown. You can also anticipate, though, that each year tuition and fees will increase about 5 to 10%. So do keep that in mind, whereas you would expect those to increase. Tuition and fees are not billed until the summertime when you are registered for classes. So we're going to talk in a minute about next steps, and which will be part of that. So this is a great page to take a quick picture of if you want. These are some additional resources for scholarships outside of Stony Brook University. The Institute for International Education, or known as IIE, you can search by program, by educational level, by country, and they do offer a great resource of a variety of different scholarships. Your Education USA office. If you have not been working with your Education USA office in your home country, I highly recommend that you connect with them. They are going to be a great resource for perhaps any scholarships and government funding that might be available. Their offices are typically connected in the US embassies, so they're also a great resource for you in terms of visa application. They will also most likely this summer have a pre-departure session for all students, both undergraduate and graduate, who are coming to the US from their home country. Of course, they do a lot of the search and application process but that of course is complete now. So I do highly encourage you to get all connected with them and use them as a resource. As mentioned, the You Are Welcome Here scholarship, which is a 50% off scholarship. That scholarship has closed for this year, but if I have any award recipients on here, congratulations. It was a wonderful process to to watch so many videos. Of course, we had a large committee. We had over 400 applicants this year submit for the You Are Welcome Here scholarship, and mentioned about 25 have were awarded. Typically, you need to be, an incoming first-year student, and you have to show your leadership and how you would bring that leadership to Stony Brook through a video. Little over 100 institutions are part of the You Are Welcome Here scholarship campaign. I should mention that the You Are Here Welcome Scholarship, if awarded, is only if you attend Stony Brook. It is, even though it's a national campaign, they are university specific. So you would have to apply and be a recipient at each institution to get it at that specific institution. NAFSA is our International Professional Association for international educators and study abroad and intensive English programs. And they offer some great resources on their website as well for funding and scholarships. And then, of course, some other great websites. The College Board, that's like where you take your SAT. They do have some great resources online, internationalstudent.com and studyusa.com. So again, I'll leave it up for another few seconds to take a quick picture. Just do a Google search of any of these for any outside funding opportunities. So as I mentioned in the few slides before, I wanted to just take a minute, since I have all of you captive, to talk a little bit about next steps. And I first mentioned this by submitting your request for your I-20 on Access VIS. So even if you have yet to deposit and you're yet to fully commit to Stony Brook, one of the things that you absolutely must do in order to attend Stony Brook is get an I-20 document to go to the U.S. Embassy to get your F1 visa. And you can begin submitting your request for your I-20 now. You would have received access to the portal from our Visa and Immigration Services office, and you would want to do that. You will not be sent your I-20 via email until you have paid that deposit, which of course is due by May 1, but the sooner you do it, of course, the sooner you will receive that I-20 document. However, of course, you can wait until the May 1 deadline to pay your tuition deposit, your housing deposit if you are going to live on campus, and our mandatory orientation fee. In terms of housing, if you do not pay your deposit by May 1, we cannot guarantee housing on campus. We do guarantee housing for international students for all 4 years, but you have to pay by the deposit deadline. Our programs and our housing do tend to fill up. So after May 1, it is completely on a space available basis. Certain programs will absolutely close up and housing may close up. So it's really important to have it in by May 1. We cannot guarantee space in anything after that. The orientation fee is mandatory. You have 2 parts to orientation. You will have online modules throughout the summer that will help you sort of start understanding Stony Brook and different resources and processes. And then there'll be a new student welcome week, a new student welcome week the week prior to school, which I'll talk about in just a second. Other things that will start to come once you submit your deposit, some of these will start coming next month, some really not until after May 1 or even June and July. But your advising planning form is going to talk about all things to help us get you ready to register for classes. There's a lot of technology to set up. You might not even know some of these acronyms or terms yet. Some have been sent to you already, and I'll talk in a second. We're going to go over this a little more in some other admitted student sessions, but I just want to give you a sense of what they are. But you're going to have to set up what's called Duo, which is a sort of a security measure for logging into many of the platforms here at Stony Brook. Your Solar account, if you have yet to set up your Solar account, this is how you pay your deposits. So that absolutely needs to be set up. This is also how you're going to see additional scholarships and be able to pay your bills eventually and register for classes. NetID is how everyone signs into all accounts at Stony Brook. And your Stony Brook email address you will receive at some point in time over the summer. Everything will only be emailed to your Stony Brook email address, and you'll be expected to check that regularly. Throughout the summer, you're also going to have to take placement exams in English and math. Some students are exempt, which will be on your portal. Immunizations, you will have to submit proof of immunizations, including the COVID vaccine, and students cannot register for classes without submitting those immunizations. As mentioned, there'll be some online student orientation modules that you will complete throughout the summer. There will be housing forms and meal plan selection. You will have online meetings with advisors and peer mentor students who are going to help you register for classes. And then you are going to move in on Sunday, August 20th. And new student welcome week is August 21st to the 27th. First day of classes is Monday, August 28th. So again, we are going to have some admitted student sessions that have also been sent to you. We're going to talk a little bit more in detail on some of those things, so I do encourage you to attend. Once you become a student here, you heard me talk about a lot of things that are next steps, and the admissions office is here to help guide you. But there are a lot of other offices that now you'll have to start connecting with, like our Visa and Immigration Services, who sends out your I-20. The housing office will handle all of your housing, different advising offices, Bursar. This is also another great slide to take a picture of. You can always contact us, but of course, there will be times that we may have to connect you to one of these offices because we can only see so much information about your particular question or account. And lastly, I really encourage you, as I mentioned in the very beginning of this presentation, is to connect with me or my other colleagues in the admissions office to have a one-on-one meeting if you have specific questions, about your particular application or anything along those lines. We also have chat with student opportunities. And of course, you can always email us as well. Oops, and I think that is it. So I am going to stop sharing my screen, and you can, of course, put any questions you may have in the chat, or you can raise your hand if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question. If not, I want to thank you so much for attending, whether it's morning, evening, or night for you. I want to thank Lindsay from our financial aid office for joining us as well. So I think we have. Do you offer any jobs for students as translators? We don't necessarily have a need for translation at Stony Brook. We do in the international admissions office and certain other offices that have a lot of international student interactions will employ international students because they may speak a certain language just to help with that, but it's not specifically a translation job where it's more to help with interacting with students. And you'll have to interact with all students, but utilize your specific speaking skills in whatever language to help out in. So we'll definitely have those opportunities. So let's see. I have a couple of direct messages. Can international students do paid internships? students can work on campus for up to 20 hours a week and cannot work off campus for pay. They can have some opportunities for paid internships through what's called CPT, which is your curricular practical training opportunities, where if that is a paid opportunity, you would have to have an extended or a different status sort of your visa and go through CPT. So students who also want to do OPT, which is 1 to 3 years after you graduate and work in the US, but still be on your F1 visa, you'll work with our Visa and Immigration Services as well as our Career Center in order to have those opportunities. But anyone who does a paid internship, which is the CPT opportunity, that will take off of your OPT time. So if you are doing, a 3-month internship, then you only have 7 months of, or 9 months, I should say, sorry, because you'll have a full year of OPT. So sometimes students choose not to do that. Question, can we start working on campus from our first semester? Yes, what'll happen is there is a student employment office, and there's generally a career fair that first few weeks of school. Once you are hired, you do have to get some paperwork done and apply for a US Social Security number. So sometimes this can take a couple of weeks. So I generally say students wouldn't start earning money until at least the middle of the semester. Are there ways to reduce the dorm fees? For your first year, there are not ways to reduce the dorm fees. If you do become an RA or something like that in future years, there are, but there are no housing scholarships. Do we need to show the full amount of $51,000 at once on one account before I-20 will be issued? You do need to show that total amount. It could be on multiple bank statements through multiple sponsors. It is not the person who pays your bills, but of course, so you would have to list all of those sponsors, but it does have to show that total amount. Your I-20 will not be issued without it. Can I qualify for additional scholarships if I was admitted to the Honors College? You may. And that is something that the Honors College will, if admitted, will award separately. So that would typically come out with your honors decision. Question about when should we pay tuition and housing? So typically tuition and housing are not billed until the summer. It should be due August 1st. You will not get billed tuition until you're actually registered for classes, and you will pay by each semester. Someone's asking a question about the You Are Welcome Here scholarship. Is it a conditional scholarship, and do we have to maintain a certain GPA? For all of our scholarships, you do have to maintain a certain GPA, and those stipulations are listed in your scholarship letter, as well as in your Solar account in the financial section. So if you need help figuring that out, you could, of course, connect with me or connect with Lindsay, and we'll happily show you where to go for that. Question about, can I live off campus for the first year and then apply for housing in the second year? So students are not required to live on campus their first year. However, students who do not live on campus at Stony Brook then for following years are not given priority to live on campus. So it's no guarantee then that you will have housing for the second year. You'd have to go into like a wait list option. So a question about applying for additional scholarships, and would it be enough to cover the total fee? Stony Brook does not offer full scholarships. So typically, unless you're probably part of the honors program at this point, as an admitted student, your merit scholarships have been sent, and the You Are Welcome Here scholarship has been awarded, which is the majority of our scholarship programs. So a question about commuting from Brooklyn, Queens. So that is a pretty far commute. Brooklyn and Queens is probably about 45, depending on what part, miles or so from campus. Of course, we have a train station on campus, and it is easy to get to on the weekends to visit family or friends that might be in that area. But oftentimes you'll have to take a train to sort of one of what's called the main hub of Jamaica, which is in Queens, and then take a train to Stony Brook, which is probably another hour and a half. So it's not something that's recommended every day, along with your studying time and extracurricular time. Of course, later in like junior and senior year, when students want to do internships in the city, oftentimes students will plan their schedule where they might not have classes on Fridays and then be able to do an internship on Fridays. Very easy to do that, very easy to do on the weekends. But really probably difficult for your first semester as you're getting acclimated, as you need to plan time inside the classroom as well as outside for studying. A question about, can you apply for the You Are Welcome Here scholarship after the first year? No, you cannot. This is only for new incoming first year students. To what extent can payment received from on-campus jobs help to pay tuition? I typically say that your on-campus job is not to supplement your tuition, but to supplement your additional expenditures while you are here, in terms of things like you'll need toiletry and personal care items. Your phone charger might have decided to fray and you need a new phone charger. Maybe you want to go to the movies with friends, things like that. Your tuition typically would need to be paid for outside of that. Can in-person appointments be scheduled with a financial aid officer? If you are here in New York and on campus, or are going to plan on being on campus, you can of course come see our financial aid office. Or see me. Definitely connect with us and we'll make sure of it. If anyone is in New York, we do have admitted student days, April 15th and April 22nd, where both offices, as well as many other offices, will be on campus for that. So we definitely recommend coming for those days. Other questions, do you offer housing off campus? We do have an off-campus housing commuter student office that will post some off-campus housing opportunities. They are not through the university, so that is something that you would arrange for on your own. We are in a very suburban and residential community here at Stony Brook. It is a very safe community. Both myself and Lindsay live right here in the community, but it is suburban. It is not like major apartment complexes, super easy walking distance to Stony Brook. You would typically live in a room or in a house off campus and have to figure out transportation. So sometimes people think that living off campus is easier, but sometimes you need a car then. So then your cost actually is more. We strongly recommend, unless you have family here, to live on campus your first year, get to know the area, get to know campus, get familiar with college level studying before you were to move on campus. Can I apply to external scholarships even after I received my I-20? Absolutely. So, if you're proving all of your funds and getting your I-20, but then, applying for scholarships through Education USA or somewhere else, and receiving those funds to help support your tuition, absolutely. And as mentioned, there will be scholarships that you can apply to through academic departments, once you're a student here as well. So it's not just this year. A question about how I can get into honors programs. Those applications were due January 15th. So at this point in time, they are closed for this year. And a question about how can I see if I've been accepted to the honors programs. So They will be sent by the end of the month, so by the end of next week, all of those decisions will be sent. Question about after paying the deposit, can you retract your application if you change your mind? After May 1, deposits are non-refundable. So if you pay from now until May 1 and decide, you know, April 15th that you don't want to come, the tuition deposit is refundable. There are generally, you know, housing and orientation will have a schedule of their refund policy, which should be separate than us, but after May 1, deposits are non-refundable. Will you be open to visit for tours in June and July? Absolutely. While there's, you know, limited, you know, we do have even some summer classes. Our offices are here all year long, except for some major holidays. So if you are coming and just want to get acclimated beforehand, I do also encourage you, we have the Global Summer Institute that starts in July if you want to attend that program, of course. So a question about, I've been admitted to the honors programs, but no additional scholarships. And you're a recipient of the You Are Welcome Here scholarship. Typically, once you receive that scholarship, there are no additional scholarships then awarded. Am I correct with that, Lindsay? Right? So
yeah, they get the higher amount.
You'll get the higher amount. So that's why you weren't receiving anything additional with honors. And then a question again about campus jobs. Have any requirements for us to start? So again, there'll be sort of an on-campus job fair that will have all offices that are looking for student employment. And there's an office within our career center that helps match with student employment, but you will have to go and speak to that office and apply for that job and interview for that job. And then as an international student to work in this country under your F1 visa, you do have to get a Social Security card. You will actually have to fill out tax forms and fill out federal US tax documents every year and pay taxes. So it will take a little bit of time that first semester to kind of get all of that once you have that job. So it's not like day one you'll be able to find a job and start, but it is possible to absolutely work and absolutely start within your first semester. So I think I got to everyone's questions. But do keep them coming. If you don't have any questions, I really appreciate everyone taking the time and coming. I think a couple of questions. Do the meal plans include 7 days of the week? Yes, absolutely. There's many different options to the meal plans. There's what's called dining dollars and swipe. And a swipe means a meal. Whereas like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you swipe, it's sort of in one of our all-you-can-eat areas, and you go in, eat as much as you want, and then leave. Whereas there are other opportunities just for like quick service meal kind of things where it's like a prepackaged meal, or, you know, a sort of a more like a to-go meal, and you just sit in one of our dining areas, and it's not all you can eat. Typically, you know, there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. On the weekends, it's more like brunch and dinner because a lot of students sleep in. But you can actually purchase a variety of different number of meals a week. So it really depends. You know, some students find that they never eat breakfast, so they only buy 15 meals a week, whereas others buy 21 meals a week. So there's different options, and we definitely, you know, read through them and do what's best for you. For summers, is there a separate housing fee? Yes, absolutely. So if you want to live and stay here for the summer, there is, and take classes, you will pay additional tuition. You will pay additional housing fees. There are a lot of opportunities to work during the summer. You'll see this summer you will get to connect with a lot of different students who will be helping with your onboarding and your transition to come to college. So orientation leaders and international student advisors. So you will actually, if interested, can absolutely work during the summer. Students during the summer can work up to 30 hours a week versus the 20 hours a week. So if you wish to stay, you can stay and work, or you can also set your, or you can take classes. Okay. So I think that was about all of the questions for today. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and I'm actually going to stop